while the radio audience enjoys their commercial breaks, the first of two times I'll be pleased to introduce this man here on the Rich Eisen Show, Larry King. How are you, Larry?
I'm fine, Rich. What do you mean, radio is not on now?
Well, radio is listening currently to the commercials that, as you know, keeps this operation afloat.
So you come back, you have to reintroduce.
And then I will reintroduce.
I get it. So this is
You get it.
This is sort of like, I've been in the business now. This is sort of interim.
Yes, this is the interim. And Larry, and I'm pleased to say this, we're on Podcast One, so are you and your lovely
Correct.
wife, Sean. Back and forth with Sean and Larry King.
And you're going to be on.
I can't wait. I believe in a couple of Wednesdays.
Couple of Wednesdays.
Yeah, I'll be right in the middle of the playoff swing.
I'm having a lot of fun doing it. My wife is very funny. She's very pretty.
Yeah, my wife fills in on this show too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I'm flying back from the games on Friday. So yeah.
So where are you Thursday?
I'm in Jacksonville. Florida.
Well, there's an interesting fact about Jacksonville.
What do you got for me?
There are only 2 rivers in the world that flow north.
And Jacksonville,
The Nile.
Yeah, the Nile.
And the St. Johns River in Jacksonville.
It flows north.
Flows north.
So if I need a quick ticket out of town,
You can get right up that.
let's say if it's halftime, it's 2-0. Jacksonville on top of the Titans.
A lot of Jaguar players will be joining.
Yes. They'll be like, you got your boat. Get on that boat and get out
Why
of Dodge.
is the NFL in Jacksonville? I mean, I liked Florida. I lived in Florida for 20 years, lived in Miami.
Sure. I think Wayne
Why?
Weaver, the previous owner of the Jaguars, is a very influential guy. And I never really asked that of Paul Tagliabue, because that's when it happened when he was in the commission.
But I mean, in Jacksonville, not in L.A.
You know what? You are speaking, and I want to talk to you about Los Angeles football.
I've lived here for
I know.
18 years.
You've been in the diaspora out here, the football diaspora out here.
I don't understand it, because I've never talked to a Los Angelino, whatever is that what they call,
Yeah, you're right.
who said, boy, I wish we had football back.
But if it comes back, they'll go. If they build it, people will come. You don't
Yeah.
believe so?
Sure, but if they built it in Fargo, North Dakota, they'd come.
That's true.
But
It's the NFL.
There's just, I don't know where they're going to put the stadium.
Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. We are on the Podcast One family, and a Podcast One family member is here in studio. Download the podcast Back and Forth with Sean and Larry King. I've also appeared on his Aura TV show, Larry King Now. Pleased to have here in the studio none other than Larry King. How are you, Larry?
How are you, Rich?
I'm doing very, very well.
What an expansive, beautiful studio this is.
That is so kind of you to
I
say.
mean, this is all DirecTV?
This is DirecTV. This is DirecTV.
This is as nice a studio. Are you wearing suspenders for me?
He is. Chris Law is wearing suspenders for you and what looks more like Drew Carey glasses than anything else.
By the way, this was my idea, and I texted him yesterday, hey, we should wear suspenders for Larry tomorrow. Yeah, great idea. So I went to look 4 different stores, couldn't find any. His wife picks him up on the way home and shows up with this, not telling me.
Larry, how do I adjudicate this matter with two guys?
Well, it's kind of weird. First,
Yeah.
he looks like the Smith Brothers cough drops. And the suspenders.
Yeah.
The glasses are a little bit...
They're a little big. There's
Drew
no
Carey.
flame in them.
There's Drew
There's
Carey.
nothing
Carey.
here.
And I was on Craig Ferguson last night. He used to work for Drew Carey.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look very distinguished.
Oh.
On the other hand, you
Brockman.
look... how would I describe how you look? Cal Ripken.
Cal Ripken.
Oh, I'll take that.
Yeah, the Iron Man.
Because
Yeah.
I'm always here for work,
Yeah,
Larry.
unlike the one in the glasses and the suspenders.
I saw Cal Ripken break in. I was in Florida when he played. When he was playing, he
Spring
played
training?
Spring training, and then he played in the Florida State League.
Yeah. So you have South Florida roots.
I have a lot of sports.
You got a lot of sports roots.
When I grew up,
Right.
I always wanted to be in radio since I'm 5 years old, and I thought I'd be a sports announcer, but I got into interviewing I was doing a disc jockey show. And I went to a restaurant and did a broadcast at the restaurant. And Bobby Darin walked in, and I loved interviewing. But I always kept around sports. I did a lot of years with the Dolphins doing color. I would drop in on baseball games at Memorial Stadium when we moved up to Washington. I would broadcast spring training games. I just loved sports.
Sure.
So I kept around it. I worked with Red Barber for 3 years on News Weekend on Channel 4. He did sports. I did news. And I grew up with Red Barber's voice in my skull.
So you did the perfect season for the Dolphins as a color analyst, and you did the locker room?
I was color, and then I did a lot of locker room stuff. Then a lot of years I did color. Then Hank Goldberg replaced me doing color. Yeah, Hank was our spotter, and then he became color. But Hank was in advertising all those years.
Well, we're going to fix you up with Hank in the next segment. Hank's going to be phoning into this program.
Oh, wonderful!
We're going to get you a little reunion
There's
there.
nobody like Hank.
Was he called Hammer then, too?
Was he the Hammer back then?
Or did he not have that nickname?
I don't think he had the hammer. No.
Oh, okay.
What was
Hank's him and Mike Pearl. You know, they hung around together.
Mike Pearl, along of Turner, CBS. He was the one who was, the producer of the NFL Today.
And his
Musburger
his father was Pearl's Furniture. A very big. You didn't have to throw a benefit from Mike Pearl. They owned the furniture chain in Miami.
Yeah.
Well, those were great years. Miami was. When I went to Miami, the university owned the city. There was no pro football, no pro basketball, no pro hockey, no pro baseball. A minor league team, Marlins. But the university owned the city.
Well, as you know, there are many people who would say that even when professional sports did arrive, the U was still the best professional sports team in the city, Larry. People might say that.
Until Shula,
Right.
Griese, Warfield, Zonka, Kick, Morris, Bonacani, Kuchenberg, and that team, which is still heralded to me as the best team ever played. The only team unbeaten.
What was it like covering Don Shula then as a coach?
I got along with Don
like?
great. When he came, I did his first interview when he came to South Florida. We did a 2-hour interview, welcomed Don Shula. And then we had a big breakfast at the DuPont Plaza Hotel in which all the Dolphin players came. And I was on stage with Don, and he leaned over to me and he said, "Which one's Griese?"
No way.
Yeah. And I said, he's back there. He says, "Call him up. Call him up to the dais, Bob, come up." And this was like late January.
Yeah.
And he says, "Good to meet you." He says, "Good to meet you, Coach." He said, "I'm very anxious to get together." And Bob says, "Well, I'm ready anytime." And Shula said, "How about tomorrow morning?" And then I knew we really had a coach.
Yeah.
How about tomorrow morning?
How about tomorrow morning? So he knew who Bob Griese was, but in terms of picking him out of the lineup, you were the one who
I introduced.
Don Shula followed your finger to pointing to Bob Griese for the first time.
That's correct. And I'll tell you something about Don. He was the best organizer I ever saw. And another thing he told me once, never, ever lie to a player. Never tell a player you're going to play Sunday if he's not going to start. Never get in that position where you've ever told a player something that wasn't true. And he held true to that. Don was he was just, and is. I was with him recently in Ohio. They had all the Hall of Famers there. Had a wonderful dinner and an evening.
What were you doing there? You were just
emceeing an event.
You emceed an event for the
do a
Pro
lot
Football
of
Hall of
emceeing,
Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful event. All the Hall of Fame, Joe Namath hobbling around on bad knees. It was sad to see. But Don was a wonderful coach and a wonderful guy, and very, very loyal. And really, I can't explain how hard he worked with that team. Early in the morning and late at night.
Because so many people just assume he rolls the footballs out, and they had an undefeated season because of how great a team
and
it
that
was.
team, they stay in touch every year.
Well, they pop the champagne corks.
Until one unbeaten team loses.
Sure. Larry King is here on the Rich Eisen. I feel like I don't even need to reset you as a guest, but your voice is so familiar, certainly to radio audiences. Back and forth with Sean and Larry King on the Podcast One label.
I'm having so much fun doing that.
You know what? It is a great format where you just keep going. Now they're counting me down on my ear. I got 4 minutes left with you before Hank comes. If this was a podcast, we'd talk for an hour and a half.
I've done everything there is to do in the business.
Sure.
First network radio talk show on the Mutual Network. CNN, the first worldwide cable show. Now internet, doing a show. Now a podcast.
Right.
Now what's left? What's next?
This show. Now that's it.
What am I going to be when I grow up?
Larry King now on Aura TV and of course on Podcast One. Norm Pattis, he would crush me if I didn't mention Podcast One over and over again.
Norm Pattis he's a great guy.
And it's funny, we could talk about him, and sports fans know because he's the guy who's right there in the front row
with the scorecard,
with his
banging
counting
his hand
right there in the
game.
Laker games.
Still there, the Lakers losing by 20.
I know. But now that I'm part of the Podcast One family members, Larry, I'm still waiting for my courtside seats from Norm.
Yeah, he might invite you once.
Just once.
Norm is a wonderful. He gets in bed with his wife, Mary, and Mary says, "God, it's cold," and he says, "Call me Norm."
Fantastic. I mean, of all, I'll ask it, even though it's such a macro question. The people that you have interviewed, let's just put it in the CNN era. The people that you interviewed, pointing to, I want a celebrity and a newsmaker. The one that you're most proud of saying that you interviewed.
Tie in celebrity, Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando. Newsmaker, there's too many. Jumping out of the hat, Mandela.
That's a pretty good hat name to jump out of right there.
But 7 presidents, you know, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Nixon. You know, I pinch myself every day, Rich. I'm a little Jewish kid from Brooklyn who just wanted to be on the radio. That's all I wanted to be, was on the radio. And
right.
I never knew this would happen to me, that I'd be seen all over the world or have this happen to me. And I feel very blessed. I don't really feel I've ever worked in 57 years. I mean, it's not work.
Sure.
Look at this. Oh, look at this.
I know.
You got slaves all around you. You got Rhoda, you got the Smith brothers, you got Cal Ripken,
yeah.
Other guys with a beautiful studio. You're right next to the airport, and you have to get away. You're right there.
Yeah.
And they pay you for this.
I know, Larry.
I mean,
I pinch myself every day. I get to
Who
talk
works
to the
harder,
NFL.
you or a bus driver in downtown LA?
Of course, I know what you're saying.
No comparison.
I know exactly.
So
what you're
count
saying.
your blessings. Pinch yourself.
What was it like talking to Sinatra? I mean, I'm transfixed by him. I mean,
Frank was the best. If Frank liked you, you could do no wrong.
If not,
and if he didn't like you, you could do no right. But Frank was loyal, great interview. Hard to get him. Jackie Gleason got him for me the first time.
Yeah.
I did his last interview on television on CNN.
What was that? 99.
99. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
96.
Sure.
He died in
okay.
98.
Yeah.
99. He died in 98. He would have been 99 this year.
Just this past week, I know there was this great letter that Michael Beschloss tweeted out that he wrote to the letter of the editor here in LA Times, complaining about George Michael complaining about his fame. And it was as if Phil Hartman was performing it. You had to read that, telling George Michael, swing, man, swing. And it's fantastic.
One of my prized possessions at home is a 5-paragraph letter from Frank.
Typewritten or handwritten?
Typewritten and signed Francis S. He dictated it. He said dictated and signed by Frank.
Right.
And he said such wonderful things, and I got along with him so well. You know, he was really...
Thank God.
Well, he did promos for my radio show. He was... If he liked you, I'd say he was just... But he had his way about him that was just... Rickles tells a great story.
That is?
They're in Europe. They're in France. And it's raining. And they're in the second floor of a hotel. And they're sipping with some wine and stuff. And as lightning goes off.
Yeah.
And Frank says to Rickles, go down and tell those photographers to get out of here. And Rickles said, what? He said, get those photographers out of here. So Rickles goes out in the pouring rain, comes back and says, I think I got rid of them, but I noticed some lightning. It could have been the lightning, Frank.
Fantastic. Larry King is here in studio.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.